She poured hot gravy down the back of my neck, in front of everyone. The room went dead quiet. My husband didn't even flinch. He just told me not to make a scene. And his mother? She leaned in and whispered that the woman next to him should have been his real wife. What they didn't know was that I already had proof, real proof, and I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. Friends, before I dive into this story, I want to ask for a small favor. If you enjoy real-life stories like this, please hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from. I'd love to hear from you. Now let me tell you exactly how everything unfolded after that dinner. The second that hot gravy hit the back of my neck, I froze. It was thick and heavy and instantly started sliding down inside my dress. I felt it stick to my spine, burning and sticky, and for a moment, I couldn't move. I just stared straight ahead at the lace napkin on my lap, my hands resting stiff on either side of the plate. No one said a word. The air in the room felt like it had been sucked out, but still nobody looked directly at me. Lillian stood behind me, her voice calm and cold in my ear. She's the woman who should have been his wife. I blinked hard, hoping maybe I'd imagined it, but the gravy dripping into my bra said otherwise. I turned my head, slow, and saw Marcus. He was looking down at his plate like he didn't know me, didn't see me, like I hadn't just been humiliated in front of 30 people. My legs shook as I pushed back from the table. The chair scraped loud against the floor. I reached for my purse, fingers slipping against the fabric from the sauce. My breath caught. No one stopped me. No one stood. And Marcus, my husband of 15 years, didn't even raise his head. That silence hurt worse than the burn. As I walked out of that grand dining room, all I could hear was the soft clinking of silverware being picked back up. I passed by cousins, uncles, women in silk dresses, and men with shiny watches, none of whom looked at me. It was like I'd disappeared. Lillian was already laughing again behind me, that fake, delicate little chuckle she used at charity events. I kept walking through the hallway lined with family portraits, generations of their bloodline staring down at me from gold frames, and it took everything in me not to throw something at one of them. I wanted to scream, break a vase, do something dramatic and messy just so they'd have to finally acknowledge what had happened. But I didn't. I walked out like a damn ghost, slow and steady, heels clicking across marble floors, even though my whole body was shaking. The second I hit the front porch, the humid air smacked me in the face and I let out one breath, just one, before the tears tried to come. But I wouldn't let them. Not here. Not at her house. I walked to my car with my chin high, gravy still soaking through the back of my dress and into the seat as I slid in. It was disgusting. I felt disgusting. I sat there for a moment, engine off, the street dark around me, just the distant sound of laughter and glasses clinking behind me. I gripped the wheel with both hands, slick with sauce, my breath coming out short and fast. I couldn't drive like that. My dress clung to me in the worst places, and I could still hear Marcus's voice from inside, not yelling or defending me, just quiet, absent, like I'd embarrassed him. My phone was in the cup holder. I stared at it. My thumb hovered. I had the number saved under nothing but a single initial, D. I hadn't planned to ever call it. I had saved it months ago after a conversation I never told Marcus about. A man who knew things, who had worked for the family a long time ago, who'd left quietly but not empty-handed, and who told me, if I ever wanted to talk, he had records, proof. I pulled the phone closer, opened the contact. My hands were shaking. My whole body was hot and freezing at the same time. Then I hit call. It rang twice before he picked up. I didn't even say hello. I just whispered, "It's time." My voice barely made it out. Then I hung up, dropped the phone on the passenger seat, and started the car. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The highway felt like it was stretching forever in front of me, wet and endless. The rain started halfway through Baton Rouge and didn't let up once. The wipers smeared more than they cleared, and I had to lean forward just to see the damn lanes. My back was sticking to the seat. The car smelled like gravy and perfume and shame. My hands kept sliding on the wheel no matter how many times I wiped them on my dress. I kept replaying that moment, the clink of her glass, Marcus's empty face, the way she walked behind me like a queen going in for the kill. I should have thrown the gravy back. I should have said something. But I didn't. I just left like a coward. And now I couldn't even go back to fix it. But calling Dee, that changed something. That wasn't running. That was the first time I'd chosen to fight back, even if no one knew it yet. And somewhere between mile marker 92 and the turnoff toward Shreveport, I realized I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking anymore. I just felt quiet, heavy, yes, but clear, like something had clicked into place. I had been the one humiliated, but that didn't mean I had to stay humiliated. By the time I pulled into the driveway back home, the rain had stopped, but the sky still looked bruised. I turned off the engine and sat there for a while. The house was dark. The kids were with my sister for the weekend, thank God. I didn't want them to see me like that. I didn't want them to ask about the stains on my dress or the way my eyes looked. I reached up and touched the back of my neck. The gravy had dried, crusted into my skin. I felt disgusting. But more than that, I felt done. Done pretending, done swallowing it, done standing next to Marcus at family events like some unwanted accessory. That woman had poured food on me in front of everyone, and not a soul stood up for me, not even the man I'd built my life around. And for what? For a seat at a table they never planned to let me stay at? No. That night, sitting in that dark driveway, I knew something had broken, not just between me and Lillian, but between me and Marcus. Maybe even between me and who I used to be. I wasn't going to beg for respect anymore. I was going to demand it one way or another. I went inside, peeled off the dress like it was a second skin I never wanted to see again, and threw it straight into the trash. I didn't even hesitate. The shower felt like fire on my skin, scrubbing the gravy, the shame, the smell of her perfume off me. When I came out, I stood in the mirror for a long time in my towel, just looking at my face. I didn't look broken. I looked tired. Hollow around the eyes, yes, but not gone, and not weak. I wrapped myself in an old t-shirt, made a cup of tea with trembling hands, and sat by the window while the streetlights blinked outside. My phone buzzed once. Marcus. I didn't answer. He hadn't said a word when it mattered. Whatever he wanted now could wait. I sipped my tea and stared out into the wet night. Tomorrow, I knew, would be hell. Questions, silence, maybe apologies, maybe more lies. But I wasn't the same woman who walked into that estate house pretending to belong. Something had changed in me. I had said nothing for years, swallowed everything. But tonight I made a call. Tonight I started something. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. Not this time. The towel around my shoulders was damp and clinging to my neck, and my skin still stung from scrubbing the gravy off. I couldn't get rid of the smell. Not completely. I'd used the fancy lavender soap I only break out when I need to feel like I'm still a whole woman, not someone being picked apart at a dinner table like leftover meat. I sat on the edge of the bed in silence, the room dim except for the soft glow of my phone charging on the nightstand. Then it lit up. My chest tightened when I saw the name. Daniel Price. I hadn't spoken to him in months, but I hadn't deleted the number either. I picked up after the second ring, my fingers cold even though my body was burning. He didn't say hello at first, just breathed slow, like he'd been waiting for this call. "What happened?" he asked, voice calm like always. I told him everything. How Lillian walked behind me like she owned me. What she said, how Marcus didn't even flinch. I told him about Cynthia being introduced like some new queen in the palace. I didn't cry while I told him. Not one tear. He listened without interrupting, and when I stopped, he sighed like he already knew some of it. "She's moving faster than I thought," he said. Faster and bolder. I leaned forward, towel slipping off my shoulder, and gripped the edge of the bed. "You remember what you showed me?" I asked. "I do." He paused. "Are you ready now, Rochelle?" I didn't answer right away. My mouth felt dry. Months ago, I wasn't. I'd told him I didn't want to cause a scene or turn Marcus's family against him. I wasn't ready to throw dynamite into my own house. But after tonight, the way they treated me, like I wasn't even real, I knew silence wouldn't save me. I nodded before I realized he couldn't see me. Yes, I said, louder this time. I'm ready. And I meant it. Then we begin with what we have, he said. The bank transfers, the hidden account, the second will. I remembered that folder he showed me at that coffee shop. Thin paper, but heavy with truth. My hands had trembled just touching it. Lillian had stolen money meant for her own sister and funneled it into the so-called family estate. Her niece, still alive, was cut out. For what? For power, for control. Daniel's voice brought me back. We need to document everything you know, what you've seen, what you've heard. I'll write it up, but it has to come from you. My throat tightened. Will Marcus be dragged into this? I asked. Silence. Then, that depends on what he knew and when. But Rochelle, this isn't just about him anymore. I closed my eyes. I knew that. Of course I did. What about the kids? I asked. I don't want them touched by this. His voice softened. Then we'll protect them. There are ways to shield you and them legally. But this can't be quiet, Rochelle. Once this moves, people will know. The family will fight back. A cold knot twisted in my gut, but beneath it was something else. A tight flicker of relief, maybe even hope. I'm tired of being afraid, I said. And it was the truth. I was tired of walking into their world and pretending to fit in. Of wearing the right dress, smiling through insults, staying small so Marcus could stand taller next to me. I wasn't going to do it anymore. I'll meet you tomorrow, I said. You tell me what to bring. He didn't say goodbye, just, okay. And then the line went dead. The room felt heavier after the call. My ears buzzed with quiet, like the silence was settling back in too fast. I stood up, towel dropping to the floor, and pulled on a t-shirt from the drawer. My favorite one, soft from age, with a tiny bleach stain near the hem. It smelled like detergent and comfort. I padded into the kitchen barefoot and poured a glass of water. My hands still trembled. I could feel the shift happening inside me, like something had cracked open and wouldn't close again. For so long I'd made excuses. For Marcus, for Lillian, for the way they always found a way to remind me I didn't come from what they called legacy, that I was convenient but not chosen. But tonight, I chose myself. It scared the hell out of me. I was about to expose people with money, lawyers, influence, and I didn't know how Marcus would react. But I'd also seen what staying quiet did to me. I couldn't scrub it off in the shower. I couldn't iron it out of a dress. It clung. It spread. So I stood there in the kitchen, holding the glass like it might ground me, and whispered to myself, it's starting. I didn't sleep much. I lay on the couch with a blanket, lights off, TV playing a movie I wasn't watching. I kept thinking about the last time I saw Daniel. That old coffee shop on Jefferson Avenue, the one with the sticky floor and burnt toast smell. He'd worn a plain gray suit and brought everything in a plain brown folder. He laid out copies of wire transfers, dates, signatures. A second version of the family will Lillian had filed, cutting out her own sister's child after the funeral. It had been neat, quiet, legal-looking, but wrong. So wrong. I remember asking him then why he was giving it to me. Because, he said, you're the only one in that circle who's not bought. I didn't say anything back then, just closed the folder and walked out with it in my bag, heart pounding. Now I wished I'd moved sooner. But maybe I wasn't strong enough before. Maybe humiliation has a way of making your backbone grow. I turned off the TV at some point around 4 a.m. and just stared at the ceiling in the dark. Tomorrow I'd be in Daniel's office. I'd have to speak names, admit what I'd seen and felt for years. And I'd have to do it without flinching. When the sun finally came through the blinds, I sat up, still in the same clothes, hair matted from the pillow. My body felt heavy, but there was no part of me that wanted to crawl back into pretending. My phone was on the table beside me. No missed calls, no messages, nothing from Marcus. Of course not. He hadn't even texted after I walked out. I stood, stretched, and walked back to the bedroom to get dressed. I picked out jeans and a plain black top. No makeup, No perfume, just me. The truth didn't need accessories. Before I left the room, I grabbed the folder I'd tucked away in my closet behind some old sweaters. Daniel had told me to bring it. As I held it in my hands, I felt the weight of everything it carried. Lies, betrayal, money that wasn't theirs, and the cost of silence. I wasn't sure what would happen after today. I knew I might lose more than I already had. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking into a battle where I had to smile and nod and shrink. I was walking in with something they couldn't ignore. I was walking in ready to fight back. The smell of pancakes filled the kitchen, but my stomach stayed tight. I stood at the stove, flipping them slow, not because I was in the mood to cook, but because keeping my hands busy was the only thing keeping me from shattering a plate against the wall. The kids were at the table, Layla in her pink hoodie, Jordan with his usual messy hair, bickering over who got more syrup like the world hadn't cracked open the night before. Then Marcus walked in. Same black suit. Same blue tie, now hanging loose around his neck. He hadn't even changed clothes. His eyes were bloodshot, and he moved slow, like maybe the night had drained something from him too. But his mouth? His mouth moved just fine. "Morning," he mumbled, kissing Layla on the top of her head, ignoring me completely, and sliding into his chair like this was any regular Monday. "Traffic's already looking bad," he said, rubbing his face. "I've got that meeting with Carter's team at 9. Big quarter start. Not a single word about what happened at the dinner. Not a single damn mention of his mother or her gravy-soaked performance. Just work talk. Just like that. I put the pancakes on plates and set them down like always. I even poured the juice, wiped syrup off Layla's fingers, and reminded Jordan to grab his backpack. I must have looked normal from the outside, but inside I was shaking. Not angry shaking, more like trying not to fall apart shaking. I could feel Marcus watching me sometimes. Those side glances that said he knew I wasn't okay, but he wasn't going to bring it up unless I did. When the kids finally left, backpacks slung over shoulders, Layla waving from the porch, I closed the front door and took a deep breath. The house fell quiet. I turned back toward the kitchen and slid his coffee across the table like I had done every morning for years. He took it. Still didn't say anything real. Just sipped and waited. "Did you enjoy your legacy dinner?" I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. I saw him flinch. Just a little. He looked down at his coffee, then back up. "Look," he started. "What my mom did wasn't right, okay? She went too far. But Rochelle, walking out like that, in front of everybody?" He shook his head, like I had been the one out of line. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "She poured food on me, Marcus, in front of your whole family, then told me to my face that another woman should have been your wife." He wouldn't meet my eyes, just stared at the steam coming off his coffee. "She was emotional. It was supposed to be a big night," he said. "And you made it worse." My mouth went dry. I felt that sentence cut something loose in my chest. "I made it worse?" I repeated. He finally looked up at me. "You could have handled it differently." That's when I knew. There was no use trying to make him see. Not today. Maybe not ever. I walked over to the sink, grabbed a dish, and started rinsing it just to give my hands somewhere to go. "Who's Cynthia Hayes?" I asked, as casual as I could manage. He paused, just for a second. But I felt it. That flicker. That moment when a man decides whether to lie or not. "She's just an advisor. Helps with estate planning stuff." His voice was too smooth, too clean. The words didn't land right. I didn't say anything back. I just nodded once and kept washing. The lie hung in the air like smoke. I could smell it, feel it crawling along my skin. He finished his coffee fast, like it burned going down. "I have to go," he said, grabbing his keys off the counter. He walked toward the door, slow at first, like he was waiting for me to say something. Apologize, maybe. Reassure him that we were okay. But I didn't. I just stood there, hands wet, dishes half clean, staring at the door until it closed behind him. Then I dropped the plate into the sink with a loud clatter and sat down hard at the table. The house was too quiet again. That silence I used to fill with laundry, calls, errands. Now it just echoed with all the words I hadn't said. I thought about pulling out Daniel's folder right then, but I didn't. Not yet. Not with Marcus's coffee cup still sitting across from me, lipstick stains still fresh. I wasn't ready to go full war before I had my armor on straight. But I made a promise, right there at that table. I wasn't going to let my kids get pulled into this mess. Whatever Lillian was building, it wasn't going to swallow them too. I walked back to the sink and finished washing the dishes, slower now. Each plate a breath, each cup a thought. Marcus had shown me everything I needed to know without even realizing it. His silence last night, his excuses this morning. That long pause before he said Cynthia's name like it tasted wrong in his mouth. I'd lived with this man for over a decade. I knew his tells better than he did. And I knew that whatever Lillian was doing, he wasn't just standing by. He was in it, whether out of fear or convenience or both. I had no proof yet, not for that part, but I didn't need it to know my marriage was cracking. Thin glass, that's what it felt like now. Shiny, delicate, pretending to be strong. But one more shift, one more sharp word, and it would shatter. And when it did, I was going to be ready. I was going to be steady, for myself and for the two people upstairs brushing their teeth and packing their books like life was still whole. I wouldn't let them see it fall, not if I could help it. By the time I finished in the kitchen, the sun was fully out, shining too bright through the windows like it didn't care what kind of night I'd had. I poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, sat in Marcus's chair, and took one slow sip. It was bitter. I didn't sweeten it. Didn't see the point. The kitchen still smelled like syrup and toast, but underneath that was something else. Something sour. I checked the time. Daniel would be expecting me in 2 hours. I'd packed the folder last night, zipped it into my bag like I was carrying a live wire. And maybe I was. I stared out the window at the street, empty and quiet. No sign of Marcus turning back. No sign of Lillian. But I could feel them both, like ghosts in the walls, whispering and watching. I wrapped my fingers around the mug tighter and whispered something to myself I hadn't dared say out loud until now. They picked the wrong woman to play with. My voice didn't shake, not even a little. Then I stood up, walked down the hall, and started getting dressed for war. Daniel's office smelled like old paper and dust, the kind of place where secrets had weight. I sat across from him in that cramped room downtown, my knees bouncing under the table. The blinds were half shut, letting in slivers of weak sunlight that cut across the desk. A cheap fan rattled in the corner, but I barely noticed it. All I could see was that manila folder he slid toward me. His hands didn't tremble, but mine did. I opened it slowly, afraid of what I might find and afraid I already knew. Lillian's name was everywhere. Signed on papers she had no business touching, listed as a director of companies that didn't actually exist, and connected to money that was supposed to go to her sister. The sister who, years ago, had accidentally overdosed. The air felt thin. I could feel sweat building along my spine, even though the room wasn't hot. I looked up at Daniel, and he just nodded like, yes, this is real. I flipped to the next set of documents, and that's when I saw Marcus's name. It hit like a punch to the ribs. Bank transfers, payments from Lillian's fake companies labeled as consulting fees, all going into an account I'd never seen before. My name wasn't on it. Not our shared bank. A separate one. Hidden. I leaned back in the chair and pressed my hand flat against my chest like I could slow down the pounding somehow. How long? I asked, barely above a whisper. Daniel didn't pretend not to know what I meant. Over 2 years, he said. Maybe more. He's not the brains, but he's the clean face. That's what Lillian needed. My throat burned. I couldn't tell if it was from anger or grief. Probably both. Daniel kept talking. About deeds that should have been in the dead sister's name. About a trust fund for a niece that somehow disappeared the same year the overdose happened. I heard the words, but it was like they were coming from underwater. I tried to focus. I had to. I looked down at the copy of one document where Marcus's signature sat neatly under a purchase agreement. one that moved property from the niece's inheritance into Family Legacy Holdings, a shell company with no physical address. My husband's signature. Right there, in black ink. There was no denying it, no explaining it away. This wasn't about family politics or disrespect anymore. This wasn't just about gravy or humiliations. This was fraud. This was theft. This was crime. And Marcus wasn't just nearby, he was in it. I rubbed my hands over my jeans and forced myself to look at Daniel. "What happens now?" I asked. He opened another drawer and pulled out a slimmer folder. "If you want to move forward, we'll need to file formal statements, start tracing the missing money, and get legal protection for you and your kids. If this thing cracks open, it could get ugly. Lillian has lawyers, real ones, and she's not used to losing." I nodded, but my hands were still shaking. "I don't care about the estate. I don't want a dime of that money," I said. "But I want it exposed. I want my kids to know the truth one day. I want it on record, what she did." Daniel nodded. "And Marcus?" he asked. That part made me pause. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud would make it real. I looked down again at that paper, at the familiar handwriting I had seen on birthday cards and mortgage applications. "He made his choice," I said. "He knew. Maybe not everything, but he knew enough." Daniel looked at me for a long second, then closed the folder gently. "Okay, we move." The word felt heavy in the room, like a door shutting or opening, maybe both. When I walked out of that office, I felt different. Not stronger exactly, just more awake. Like someone had been talking behind my back for years, and I finally caught them in the act. The sun outside was blinding after the dimness inside, and I blinked hard, trying to adjust. My car was hot inside, but I didn't turn the AC on. I just sat there, palms pressed against the steering wheel, letting it all sink in. Lillian stole from her own blood. Marcus helped her. And the legacy dinner wasn't a celebration. It was a cover. A way to crown herself queen of something built on pain and greed. I could feel the edges of something sharp forming inside me. Not rage, not yet. Something colder, clearer. I started the car and headed home, not even sure what I'd say to the kids that night. But I knew one thing for sure. The line had been drawn, and I wasn't stepping back. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my hands had stopped trembling. My thoughts were still loud, questions looping, memories reappearing like static, but my chest wasn't tight anymore. It was flat, steady. I grabbed the folder from the passenger seat and held it like it was something sacred. Like proof of who I was, and what I'd survived, and what I was about to become. I wasn't a passive woman anymore. I wasn't a wife trying to keep the peace, or a daughter-in-law hoping to be accepted. I was a witness now, a threat. And maybe that scared me a little. But it didn't stop me. I locked the folder in the fireproof box in my closet and stood in the hallway for a moment, just breathing. The house was quiet again. Layla's backpack was by the door. Jordan's shoes were kicked off by the couch. My babies were still safe, still mine. And I would do whatever it took to keep it that way. Even if it meant tearing down everything around me. Even if it meant burning what was left of my marriage to the ground. The iron hissed softly as I pressed the collar of Marcus's shirt, the steam rising like little puffs of breath. I wasn't thinking about anything in particular, just going through the motions. The kids had already gone to school, and the house was quiet, except for the occasional groan of the old AC. That's when his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't even mean to look, but the screen lit up, and the name that flashed made my stomach drop straight to the floor. Cynthia Hayes. I froze, my hand gripping the iron handle tighter than I should have. My chest tightened, and I told myself to ignore it, to finish the shirt and move on. But my body moved before my brain gave permission. I picked up the phone. The message was short, clean, casual, like they had nothing to hide. "Your mother says everything went perfect last night. She's proud of you. Dinner at my place tonight? Just us." My throat closed. I put the iron down and sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone like it might burn me. I scrolled. I didn't want to, but I had to. The thread went back weeks, maybe months. There were emojis, inside jokes about legacy, laughing about how Rochelle doesn't get it. A message from Cynthia saying, "Your mom says I should wear that blue dress next time." One late night she sent, "Are you still awake?" And he replied, "Can't sleep, thinking about you." That one hit like a slap. My heart started beating so loud I could barely hear myself think. There was a picture, too. The two of them at a bar, Cynthia's hand on his arm, both of them grinning like the world belonged to them, like I didn't exist. I felt the sting behind my eyes, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I stared at their faces, his face, and something cold moved into my chest. Not just sadness, not just shock, but betrayal. Real, sharp, personal betrayal. He had sat there at that dinner and watched his mother humiliate me, and he said nothing. Because Cynthia was sitting in that room too, and maybe in his mind, she belonged there. I put the phone back exactly where it was, screen down, like I hadn't touched it. My fingers were trembling, but I forced myself to pick up the shirt again and keep ironing. The iron slid over the fabric while my thoughts ran wild. How long? How deep? Did Marcus really think I wouldn't notice forever? Did he ever plan to tell me? Was he just waiting until the kids were older? Or did he think he could keep both lives, the one with me and the one Lillian approved of? The idea that my own children were just part of some picture he was trying to erase made my skin crawl. I stared out the window and watched the breeze move through the trees. Everything outside looked normal, but nothing inside me was. I was shaking from the inside out. The shirt was perfect, pressed crisp and flat, like the man who wore it wasn't falling apart at the seams. I carried the shirt to the closet and hung it up like nothing happened. Then I sat on the floor, my back against the bed, and let the silence stretch. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My body felt too stunned to even allow tears. Instead, I thought about every night Marcus came home late. Every time he said Lillian just needed him, or there was some estate meeting that I wasn't invited to. I thought about Cynthia's smile at that dinner, how comfortable she looked, how smug. It made sense now. She wasn't just a co-trustee. She was being groomed to take my place. In their world, I was the phase, the inconvenience, the mistake. I pressed my palms against my eyes, not because I wanted to cry, but because I didn't want to see what came next. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just cheating. It was planned, approved, endorsed by Lillian, and maybe even accepted by Marcus. I stood up, walked into the bathroom, and splashed water on my face. I stared at myself in the mirror, water dripping from my chin, and tried to recognize the woman looking back at me. I didn't look broken. I looked tired, worn thin. But underneath that, something harder was growing. I dried my face with a towel and went back into the bedroom. I picked up Marcus's phone again, not to read but to take a photo of the message. One screenshot, then another, then every photo, every flirty text, every line that could not be explained away. I sent them to a private folder in my cloud storage and deleted the history. I didn't know yet what I would do with them, but I knew better than to leave them out in the open. Lillian played dirty, and Marcus, clearly, was capable of more than I ever imagined. If I was going to make it through this with my kids and my dignity intact, I needed to be 3 steps ahead. By the time I finished cleaning up, the house felt still again. But my mind wasn't. I sat down on the couch with my hands in my lap, staring at nothing. The question kept echoing. Is this marriage alive? And if it is, what exactly am I saving? I couldn't answer it. Not yet. But I knew this much. I wasn't begging. I wasn't crawling. I wasn't playing along to keep the family photo intact. Whatever happened next, it had to be on my terms. I had swallowed too much for too long. Silence, disrespect, now betrayal, and I was done with it. The woman ironing shirts and biting her tongue was still here, yes, but she wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I wasn't just fighting Lillian now. I was fighting the man I had shared my life with. And deep down, I was starting to believe I could win. Marcus barely closes the door before I speak. I'm standing right there in the middle of the living room, holding the remote like a shield, but my hands don't shake. Not tonight. The papers are already laid out on the coffee table. Cynthia's messages, screenshots, the folder Daniel gave me, all of it. The TV is off, the lights are warm, and the room smells like lemon cleaner, but none of that softens what's coming. Marcus walks in like it's any other night, loosens his tie, sets his keys on the counter. I can smell the perfume before he even crosses the room, something floral and expensive that I don't wear. He glances at the table, then at me, and freezes. I nod toward the couch. Sit. My voice is flat. Not yelling, not weak, just done. He doesn't argue. He sinks down slowly, eyes scanning the papers, and I watch the exact second the color drains from his face. He tries to talk, of course. First it's denial. This isn't what it looks like. Then he shifts, trying to make it softer. I never meant to hurt you. His voice cracks. My mother. She put pressure on me. Cynthia it wasn't serious. I let him talk. I want to hear the story he's prepared, the one he probably practiced in the car. When he says, the money, it was for us, I almost laugh. Us? I ask him when exactly us got invited to those meetings. When us decided to open secret bank accounts. When us started spending nights at Cynthia's condo. I stand there with my arms crossed, and he's shrinking in front of me. He stutters something about legacy, about his role in the family, about how hard it's been to carry the expectations. That's when I feel the switch. I'm not the one on trial here. He is. He stands up suddenly, flustered, like he wants to flip the script. He raises his voice, throws words like darts, says, I've never understood what it's like to be in his position, that I've always resented Lillian, that I've held him back. And then he hits me with it. You've always been small. That word slices through me like glass. I flinch, not because it's true, but because it's what he really thinks. All these years, all that sacrifice, and this is how he sees me? As small? Something inside me flares. I walk over to the table, pick up the manila folder, and toss it onto his lap. You think I'm small? Read this. He frowns, opens the folder, and sees his own name right there next to forged deeds, fake consulting fees, and transfers from accounts tied to his mother's shell companies. This is what your family built, I say, and you helped her do it. He stares at the documents like they're in a foreign language, blinking hard, mouth open but silent. I tell him about Daniel, how he showed me all of it, the niece Lillian stole from, the overdose that didn't have to happen, the second will. You think legacy means tradition and property, I say. But it's built on lies, Marcus. On stolen money. On a girl who got nothing while you and your mother played royalty. He looks at me, and I swear he doesn't even recognize me. Maybe he never did. He says low and tight, if you go against my family, you're going against me. I breathe in, steady. Then I say it. Then maybe I'm finally going for myself. His jaw tightens, his hands ball into fists, and for a second, I think he might try to argue. But instead, he storms out, the door slamming so hard it rattles the picture frames. I don't move right away. I just stare at the empty space where he stood, my ears still ringing from the slam. My knees give a little, and I lower myself onto the couch. The silence swallows me whole. For a few seconds, I feel everything all at once. Anger, heartbreak, fear. My body starts to shake, and the tears come fast, hot, and loud. I bury my face in my hands, sobbing like I haven't let myself do in years. Not from sadness, but from the weight finally sliding off. My chest feels raw, my throat burns, and I cry until there's nothing left. When it's over, I wipe my face with the sleeve of my sweater and lean back into the cushions. My eyes are swollen, my hands are still trembling, but somewhere deep inside me, a new space opens up. Not joy, not peace, not yet, but something quieter. It's the start of something. I don't know what it looks like yet. Divorce, war, survival. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't disappear to keep the peace. I didn't soften to make it easier for him. I didn't stay small. I chose myself, even if it cost me everything. That room, our living room, Doesn't feel like ours anymore. But for the first time, it feels like mine. Mine to cry in, mine to stand up in, mine to decide where I go next. The road ahead is messy, painful, and uncertain. But at least I'm the one stepping onto it now. Not being pushed, not being erased, not being told to stay quiet. Just me. And that somehow is enough for tonight. The chair is stiff under me, and the air in the conference room feels about 10 degrees colder than it needs to be. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, and the table smells faintly of lemon disinfectant and old wood. My fingers tighten around the pen, but I can't seem to make them move. The declaration sits in front of me, typed, dated, legal. Every line is mine. Every word about Lillian's shell companies, Marcus's secret transfers, Cynthia's messages, and the family legacy dinner is now printed in black and white, no longer just swimming in my head. Daniel sits beside me, calm, hands folded, not rushing me. Across the table, the two estate lawyers wait in silence, their eyes professional but curious, maybe even cautious. My hand hovers above the signature line while my brain screams through 100 what-ifs. Layla's dimples flash in my mind. Jordan's sleepy, "Good night, Mama." I picture them waking up back home in Shreveport, still untouched by this storm I'm about to unleash. I think of Marcus, not the one from the text messages, but the one who used to pull me onto the dance floor in our kitchen. My throat tightens, but I sign. Full name, steady line, it's done. The silence that follows is thick, like everyone's holding their breath. One of the lawyers reaches out and switches on the small black recorder in the center of the table. He asks me to state my full name, the date, and confirm that the statement is mine. I do, voice scratchy, but clear. Then he says these words: "This will be submitted to the district attorney's office and the civil probate court managing the Adams estate." That sentence hits harder than I expect. The Adams estate, my kid's last name, my husband's name. Everything I've known is now part of a case file. I nod, and Daniel gives me a small, firm look. Not approval exactly, more like acknowledgement. Like, you did what had to be done. The lawyers say I'm free to go, but Daniel tells me there's one more thing. He leads me out of that cold room, past the elevators, down one floor, into another section of the building. The words Family Council are printed on the door in gold. Behind it, voices are already murmuring. We step inside, and the room hushes. I recognize faces. Marcus's cousins, Lillian's siblings, even the man who carved the roast at the dinner. All of them are seated around a long, oval table, papers in front of them, coffee cups half empty. The air smells of stress and cologne. Some of them look at me with blank stares, some with open suspicion. A few won't meet my eyes. I don't sit. I stand in the back while Daniel takes the head seat, clears his throat, and opens the same manila folder I signed upstairs. His voice is even, not theatrical, but it doesn't need drama. The facts speak loud enough. He lays it all out: the forged documents, the shell accounts, the money that was siphoned out of what should have gone to Lillian's late sister and her daughter. Then he slides a copy of a birth certificate across the table. "This is Tasha Jenkins," he says, "Lillian's niece, the rightful heir to what was taken." The room shifts, chairs creak, whispers rise, then die. I watch eyes widen. Someone curses under their breath. One of the older women asks Daniel to repeat the name. He does. And then it's Lillian's voice I hear, dry, mocking, like poison in silk. "This is ridiculous," she says. "Rochelle's just bitter because her husband got tired of her mediocrity. She's always been jealous, always wanted what wasn't hers." She laughs like it's all beneath her, like truth is just another servant she can order around, but it doesn't land the same way it used to. People don't laugh with her this time. Daniel keeps going. He hands out copies. He shows time-stamped emails, notarized bank transfers, company registration logs. Slowly, you can feel the room turning. The smugness slips. Someone, I think it's one of the younger cousins, stands and says they move to suspend Lillian and Marcus from all decision-making roles until a full investigation is complete. The motion is seconded fast. That's when it happens. Lillian goes quiet. Her mouth is a thin line, her back stiff, her eyes sharp but cornered. It's the first time I've seen her without control, without the mask. She looks down at the table like it might disappear if she stares long enough. Nobody defends her. Nobody asks if she wants to respond. Daniel looks at me, subtle, just a glance, but I feel it hit. We won. Not the war, maybe, but a battle. A big one. And we didn't win with tricks or spite. We won with proof, with truth. As we walk out of that room, my legs are trembling so badly I have to stop at the lobby bathroom just to breathe. I lean over the sink, gripping the edges, my own face flushed in the mirror. Did I just destroy my marriage? My children's last name? Maybe. But what I didn't destroy is myself. By the time we step outside, the sun is sharp in the sky and I squint against the light. Baton Rouge feels louder than usual, more real, less like the place where Lillian reigns, and more like just another city where people live and lie and try to survive. My heels click too loud on the sidewalk, and my breath feels too fast. But under all that is something I haven't felt in a long time. Power. Not over anyone else. Not over Marcus or Lillian or some estate lawyer. Just over myself. The power of saying the thing out loud. The power of pressing a pen to paper even when my hand shook. It's not revenge. It's not even justice yet. But it's mine. For the first time in years, I walk toward my car not as someone's wife or mother or problem to be silenced. I walk as Rochelle. And for today, that's enough. I yank open the top drawer and start pulling clothes out without looking. Fold, stuff, zip, repeat. The duffel bag is already halfway full, and I haven't even touched the kids' things yet. Layla's sitting on the edge of the bed, legs swinging, arms wrapped around her stuffed elephant, the one she's had since she was 2. Her bottom lips quivering, but she hasn't said a word. Jordan stands in the doorway like a statue, his shoulders stiff, his face hard. He keeps pretending he's just watching, just waiting, but I know what's behind that quiet. He heard the shouting that night. He saw Marcus leave. He hasn't asked when his dad's coming back. Maybe because part of him already knows. I pause, my fingers clutching a faded t-shirt that still smells like Marcus's cologne. It used to feel comforting. Now it makes my stomach twist. I drop it in the bag and zip it shut, my hand shaking. The text came in that morning. One of Marcus's cousins, I won't even say which one, sent it like a grenade. Hope you're proud, traitor. You blew up the family. No punctuation, no signature. Just that. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Marcus hasn't been home in 2 nights. No calls, no explanation. Just radio silence, like I stopped existing the moment I stopped playing along. But I've been planning this move since the night I signed the statement. Quietly, carefully. Daniel helped me find a short-term rental across town. Something small, nothing fancy, but safe. The landlord met me at the front porch yesterday, handed me the keys and said, "Welcome home." It felt unreal, hearing those words. My name's the only one on the lease. No co-signer, no shared anything. For the first time in 15 years, I'm on a lease alone. I explain it to the kids in pieces. I say, we just need a little space, somewhere quiet, somewhere calm. I don't use words like divorce or legal case or affair. They've heard enough grown-up talk lately to last them years. Layla cries, asking if Daddy will be mad. I tell her no, but I don't believe it. Jordan doesn't say anything. He just walks over, picks up the box of books I packed earlier, and carries it to the car like it weighs nothing. Like he's already older than he should be. I watch him disappear down the hall and press my palm to my chest, trying to keep the ache from spreading too far. Everything hurts. Every sweater I fold feels like I'm tearing a piece of myself out of this house. The walls feel like they're watching me, judging me. Or maybe just echoing every time I stayed quiet when I should have screamed. I pass through each room slowly, checking corners, unplugging chargers, scanning for toys and socks and the life we built here. In the hallway, I stop by the photo wall. There we are, me and Marcus smiling at his firm's Christmas gala, Layla in her unicorn costume, Jordan in his baseball uniform, mouth full of braces. I stare at one picture longer than the rest. The four of us in the backyard last summer, arms around each other like nothing could ever break us. I lift the frame from the hook and put it in a separate bag. Not because I'm holding on to the fantasy, but because I need my kids to remember that it wasn't always like this, that there were real moments before the lies. I wipe the shelf with the sleeve of my sweatshirt and catch my own reflection in the glass. I look exhausted, but clearer, like something finally snapped into place. At the front door, I stop, just for a second. My hand is on the knob, and behind me are packed boxes, 2 duffel bags, a grocery sack of snacks, and 2 kids in the back seat of my car waiting for me. But in that pause, something heavy drops into my chest. Guilt. Not just a pang. A full flood. What if I'm destroying what little family we had left? What if Layla blames me forever? What if Jordan starts thinking men just walk out when it gets hard? I lean against the doorframe, my body cold all over. Am I doing the right thing? Is this too fast? Is it too late? But then I see it again. That flash in my mind, Lillian's hand dumping gravy down my back, Marcus's silence, the name baby on Cynthia's phone screen, his signature on stolen money. And suddenly I remember, I didn't break this. I'm just refusing to let it keep breaking me. I lock the door with both hands, turn the key slow. That click feels final, like a chapter closing. I walk to the car, legs trembling, chest tight. Layla's face is pressed to the window, eyes red but open. Jordan's pretending to scroll on his phone, but he looks up when I open the door. Nobody says anything. We just drive, street after street, house after house. The roads blur together. The boxes shift in the trunk. Layla hums something soft. Jordan sighs. And I drive, terrified, completely, utterly terrified. But also free. Not the fireworks kind of freedom. The quiet kind. The type that feels like a deep breath after years of holding it in. I don't know what's next. I don't have a plan beyond tomorrow, but I have a lease with just my name, 2 kids I love more than life, and enough truth behind me to never go back to pretending. That has to be enough. The chair is cold and stiff under me, and the table feels too long, like we're pretending there's more distance between us than there actually is. I sit with my back straight, hands folded, pretending this is just business. Marcus is across from me, still wearing that same smooth tie he always wore to court appearances for his clients, like this isn't personal, like I'm not the mother of his children. His lawyer does most of the talking at first, all calm and professional, sliding papers across the table with highlighted sections and tabs like it's some group project we've all agreed to finish. I nod through the parts I expected. Shared custody with the kids, alternating weekends, temporary alimony, medical costs, insurance details. Then he flips to a new page, one that wasn't in the draft Daniel showed me, and starts explaining the non-testimony clause. If I sign it, I get more money, get more stability. But I can't testify, not against Lillian, not in any investigation related to the estate. My stomach clenches before I even speak. I look down at the clause. The words are sharp and clean. Beneficiary agrees not to participate in or offer sworn testimony in any future criminal or civil proceeding involving the estate of Randolph Price or any connected entity. I feel the heat rush to my neck, then down my arms. It's all there, masked in polite legalese, but it boils down to this. Take the money, shut your mouth, and stay bought. Marcus won't look at me. He's staring at the coffee cup in front of him like it might explain what's happening. I glance toward Daniel, and he gives me a nod. Not pressure, not persuasion, just quiet support. My pulse drums in my ears. The word niece echoes in my head. The trust fund, the overdose, the house Lillian kept while her sister's child was shuffled around like a burden. I picture my daughter hearing whispers someday. Her mom gave up the truth for a nice paycheck. I swallow hard. When Marcus finally looks up, his voice is low and tired. Rochelle, just take it. We can move past all this. I hear what he's not saying louder than the words he uses. We can pretend none of this happened. You can stop being a problem. You can still look like the perfect family on the outside. You'll be safe. You'll be comfortable. I blink and picture our kitchen. The old house, the Sunday mornings, Layla coloring while Jordan kicked a ball against the porch rail. I think about what it cost to get here. The papers I signed. The room I stood in with Lillian's lies stacked in folders. The way Marcus flinched when I said, "Your mother stole from a child." That wasn't just business. That was truth. And this right now, this is a bribe, a gag order, a way to make all the noise go away. I press my hand flat on the table and say, "No gag order. I won't lie for your mother. Or for you." The room goes dead quiet. His lawyer blinks, then mutters something about advising against emotional decisions. Daniel raises an eyebrow but stays silent. Marcus's jaw tightens. He doesn't shout. He doesn't plead. He just stares at me like I'm someone who betrayed him. Maybe in his eyes I did. I broke the rule of silence. I stopped protecting the image. I stopped choosing family over facts. But I'm not the one who signed off on stolen money or lied about secret dinners with Cynthia Hayes. I didn't hide behind Lillian while she dismantled what little goodness that family still had. Marcus looks away, leans back and says, "Then take what's on the table. That's all you'll get." Fine, so be it. I initial the custody agreement. I sign the support clause. I slide the page with the silence clause back across the table without a mark. And I get up. Walking out, my legs feel like stone. I don't know where Marcus will go after this, or what Lillian will do when she hears I refused. Maybe she'll threaten me. Maybe they'll try to paint me as unstable or bitter. But I'm done twisting myself to fit their version of events. The guilt is still there, a thick, sick feeling in my chest that won't let go. This is their father. These are our children. I want them to have two parents, not a war. But I also want them to grow up knowing that truth matters more than comfort. That silence isn't the same as peace. That a lie wrapped in money is still a lie. I sit on the bench outside the building for a long time, breathing into my hands, feeling everything at once. Grief, relief, rage, resolve, and something small but strong under all of it. Pride. Later, in the car, I watch the courthouse shrink in the rearview mirror as I drive back toward the rental house, toward the unfamiliar furniture and the half-unpacked boxes and the kids who are still adjusting to this new life. I imagine the questions they'll ask one day. I hope I have the courage to answer them honestly. I won't say it was easy. I won't pretend I wasn't scared. But I'll tell them this. When it mattered, I didn't sell our story for silence. I chose what was right, even when it cost me everything else. The papers are signed, the deal is done, and there's no turning back. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can look at myself in the mirror without flinching. That has to mean something. That has to be enough. For now. The table wobbles every time I rest my elbow on it, but I don't fix it. Not yet. Right now the laptop is open, the screen glowing with a spreadsheet I made from scratch. Menus in one column, pricing ideas in another. A third with local churches, office buildings, and 2 community centers I'm planning to call. My notebook's a mess of notes. No mayo in summer, charge extra for setup, ask Mel about folding tables. Layla is sitting next to me, legs swinging, her crayon squeaking against the paper as she hums. Jordan's across the room, on the couch with his hoodie pulled over his head, scribbling in a binder while music pumps through his headphones. The red beans are simmering behind me, and for a second, everything feels still. Not perfect, not fixed, but mine. Then my phone buzzes. I expect a reminder, maybe something from Daniel, but when I glance at the screen, the message freezes me. It's from Daniel first. Just a sentence, simple. Charges have been filed, fraud and embezzlement. The niece is being contacted. I stare at the words, reading them twice, maybe 3 times. Something sharp rises in my chest. Relief? Justice? But also sadness. This didn't have to end this way. I imagine Lillian behind a polished desk somewhere, still pretending she's untouchable, still talking down to everyone around her. But this time, someone said no. Someone pulled the curtain back. I set the phone down, breathe deep, then it buzzes again. New number. I open it. Marcus. I lost my job, it says. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be better. I want to see the kids. The ache hits before I can stop it. He was awful. He lied. But he's still their father. He's the man who used to braid Layla's hair and taught Jordan how to ride a bike without training wheels. I read it again, slower. My first instinct is to respond fast, to say no or not now, or you don't get to ask anything. But I don't type anything yet. Instead, I look at Layla, who's still coloring, still humming, unaware of the mess adults make and drag behind them. Her cheeks are pink. She looks calm, safe. Then I glance at Jordan. He lifts his eyes from his binder just long enough to catch me watching. And he gives a tiny nod. Like, "We're okay, Mom." I didn't expect that. That little flicker of faith. I turn back to the phone and type a message. Steady fingers now. You can see them, but only at the center on supervised days, and no contact outside that until we meet with the mediator. My thumb hovers, then taps send. I watch the screen blink, the bubble disappear. That's it. No argument. No begging. No more pretending we're something we're not. I close the laptop and slide the notebook aside. The red beans are starting to thicken, so I stir the pot slowly, letting the smell fill the kitchen. It reminds me of Sundays with my grandmother, of wooden spoons and gospel playing from the radio. That food fed people who worked too hard for too little, who still made time to laugh around folding chairs and cheap wine. I want my kids to know that kind of home. Not shiny, not perfect, but real. A place where they can breathe, where they can be soft without being stepped on. I know I'll need more than beans and notebooks to build it. I'll need clients, stability, a better car, a little luck. But for now, this table and this pot are a start. It's not the life Lillian tried to buy me into. It's not the life Marcus tried to lie his way through. It's mine. I don't pretend the grief is gone. It clings to me, low in my ribs, heavy like wet clothes after a storm. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I still hear Marcus's voice saying, "You've always been small." And it bruises. But then I look around this mismatched rental house, the chipped counter, the too bright curtains, the second-hand sofa, and I see something growing. Courage, ownership, even joy in bits. Layla holds up a drawing and asks me to hang it. Jordan opens the fridge without asking, like it's finally his kitchen too. I let myself feel proud of that. Not everything is broken. Some things are just being rebuilt, with different hands. And maybe the table wobbles, and maybe the budget spreadsheet has a lot of blanks, and maybe I still flinch when the phone rings late at night. But I'm not standing outside anyone's house waiting to be let in. I'm not asking for respect I've already earned. I'm not swallowing someone else's shame. I chose the hard way, and every time I look at my kids, I know it was the only way. Tonight, I'll feed them, clean up, and go to bed in a house with no secrets under the floorboards. I'm still tired, still sore, but I am no longer silent. And no one, absolutely no one, is ever pouring anything over me again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It means more than you know. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop your city or country in the comments. I'd love to know where this story is reaching. If you felt something while watching, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me keep sharing more real stories like this one. There are plenty of other journeys on the channel that might move you, challenge you, or even give you courage in your own life. With love and respect always.